The Rams would seal the game up 20-10. Kurt Warner, not the guy that twice ran for 1,400 yards in the season with the Seahawks, but the guy from the Iowa Barnstormers of the Arena Football League. He's the starter with Trent Green gone for the year. Hits Torrey Holt, the rookie. You know what? Warner threw for 291 yards. Rams line, that was Werewolves London Fletcher dancing around as the Rams beat the Ravens 27-10 as Mitchell threw for only 188 yards in his debut for Brian Billard. Cincinnati Bengals come in totally defeated. Kurt Warner, he and Dan Marino, the only two quarterbacks the last 50 years to have their first two career starts in the NFL result in 3 touchdown passes. And look at him hit Isaac Bruce. Look at the Bengals defense, Tom. And he can't fight going for the touchdown. But it's a 60-yard game. The Reverend had 6 catches for $152. Warner to Isaac. He's the 4th-round draft pick a year ago from San Diego State. It's 7-3 to Rams. With a score 14-3, they fake the reverse. And Isaac, what a throw, Tom.
Great throw on the money. Couldn't play it better defensively. That's just good connection between quarterback and wide receiver.
21-3. Now third quarter, Hakeem drops the punt, and that was all he needed. Watch the Bengals try and follow him, Tom. He could go all the way, 84 yards. Third touchdown for Hakeem. Why not dance? 28-3. But he's not done. Third quarter, late. Kurt Warner. Hakeem. That Warner to Hakeem combination they've been talking about for years, Tom.
Yeah, watch Rodney Heath on the coverage here. Hakeem wants to sell this route inside, does a good job of breaking in toward the numbers. When he gets inside the numbers, he sees Heath turn his body, heads for the flag, and beats him so badly he just takes one step in and stops.
Now, Warner did what Marino did not do. First 3 starts ever in the NFL, 3 touchdown pass. For Hakeem, no Ram had scored 4 touchdowns in one game, receiving or running or anything combined, since Harold Jackson did it, the diminutive one, back in 1973. And Tommy, the St. Louis Rams are 3-0, and Trent Green doesn't get hurt. No one knows who Kurt Warner is.
Well, certainly a plethora of weapons, and I think that what Kurt Warner is doing is a great job of spreading the ball around. Certainly Marshall Faulk, the first couple of weeks of the season, got a lot of attention from the Bengals. Today he goes to Hakeem and Isaac Bruce. But I think also we have to think about his Arena Football League history, throwing on a very small field, every play, a big play down the football field, and you see that personality coming to life in his NFL game. And
yeah, everything's probably moving slow for him. How about this? Both the Rams and the Bengals had 99 losses in the 90s. But with the Bengals losing, they've become only the 2nd team ever to lose 100 games in 1 decade. The Bucs did it in the 80s. The San Francisco 49ers have beaten the Rams 17 straight times. Last time the Rams won at all against the Niners, 1990. Last time they won at home against the Niners, 1986. Of course, they were the Los Angeles Rams then. This is some heavy baggage at the TWA Dome. Better check that bag, sir. That's a little bit too much to carry on. Steve Young, are you playing? No, I'm not playing. Kurt Warner, are you playing? Oh, yeah. 9 TDs in 3 weeks for the Arena Football star going in, and he was just warming up. The Reverend Isaac Bruce, touchdown, 7-0, first drive Rams. Next possession for the Niners, Jeff Garcia, he felt like Grateful Dead. Incomplete. Niners punt, Tom.
Yeah, now watch Lawrence Phillips at the running back position. You've got 2 blitzers coming. You have to pick up the inside blitzer, allow the quarterback the extra time to release the football. He makes a bad decision there in the blocking scheme.
So, Rams' second possession, first quarter. Warner, Torrey Holt, Darnell Walker, nowhere to be found. 49 yards, knocked out at the 5. First and goal on the next play. And they go right for the jugular, Tom. Warner to Isaac Bruce, touchdown, 14-0, the Rams.
Yeah, and this is how simple it can be. Watch Isaac Bruce create the space at the line of scrimmage. He starts on the hash mark, he fades to the numbers, gives himself about 5 yards of space, and a nice throw there from Kurt Warner.
First play of the drive. Warner, Isaac Bruce, Lance Sergeant Schulters unfortunately knows nothing on this play. 45 yards, 21-3 Rams. It's the first quarter. In the first half, Warner with no 4 touchdown passes. It's 28-17. Niners have battled back to 28-20. Tony Horn of 20. You think Wade Ritchie's going to get him? No, Lionel Richie had a better chance. Let's get him go. Okay, go. Oh, no way, 97 yards. 30 35-20 Rams, and they're not done. Warner. Isaac Bruce. 4th touchdown of the game for Isaac Bruce. So how about this? Bruce, but everybody at St. Louis could fire the ball into the stands, huh? And fire it all over the field. This team has been around since, what, the Cleveland Rams? Bob Shaw, Crazy Legs Hirsch, Harold Jackson. The first 60 years of this franchise, 3 guys have 4 touchdowns in one game. The last 2 weeks, 2 guys have 4 touchdowns in one game. Oz Hakeem and Isaac Bruce now in the Rams record books. And how about this, Tommy? As the St. Louis Rams, A, are the last undefeated team left in football. B, they break that losing streak. C, they're kneeling on the 1, showing mercy on the Niners at the end of the game. You talk about a party in St. Louis. Let's pack our bags and go.
The outer limits.
Wow.
They are a difficult team to game plan against. You think about Isaac Hakeem catching the 3 touchdowns last week and running one back. You game plan against him. This week it's Isaac Bruce. Kurt Warner, obviously the trigger man. But we said that San Francisco's weakness was pass defense. You knew that they would have a difficult time against the St. Louis Rams. And I think the key is they play some solid defense, but the key is this was a stepping stone for them. I think that we all said this morning this would be for real. If they could win this game, they were for real. I think now they're officially for real.
Well, let me tell you, last year Rams quarterbacks all told, 12 touchdown passes. Kurt Warner, 4 games, 14 touchdown passes. Everybody coming out of college playing arena ball, then you can be great. Go with the undefeated St. Louis Rams. The undefeated Rams, the last team undefeated, and we've seen this before. Kurt Warner, Isaac Bruce, 4 yards out. They're trying to beat the Atlanta Falcons for the 2nd time in 4 weeks, 7-0. On 3rd and 26, the Marshall plan. Draw play, and Tommy, he's going to pick up 30 yards.
You spread the defense with the wide receivers, and you give it to him out of the I position without having the runner in front of him, the fullback.
And then he scores in the bob and weave dance, which I guess offsets the dirty bird from last year, as St. Louis is obviously the NFC West team that's risen from the ashes. Tony Horn. Horn of plenty. Little Big Horn. And the Falcons are custom. Morton Anderson. No, I don't think so. Kurt, go all the way. 101 yards, 21-7, the Rams. Big plays from special teams, big plays from offense, and now it's the defense's turn. Look at defensive end Grant Wistrom, the #1 pick of a year ago, outrun Chris Callaway. Had a slow 91-yard touchdown for Wistrom.
Yeah, you take another look at this. Great hands by Grant Wistrom. He was an outstanding athlete coming out of Nebraska. You see him make the nice play here off the deflection, going to get the ball, heads upfield, and amazing that Callaway cannot catch him. And then watch Mike Jones, number 52, come in and clean Callaway out of the way anyway.
With the score 34-10 for Dick Vermeil, a nice guy reaping the benefits of a fun season. The pitch from Warner to Falk, and look at him split the defenders, and he's gone. 49 yards, almost gets into the end zone before he's finally tripped up, leading to another touchdown. And this was a game in which Kurt Warner, was it a Braves game with empty seats? I don't know. The Rams ripped the Falcons for the 2nd time this year, 35-7, now 41-13. And in this game, when Kurt Warner threw for only 111 yards, all right, and just the 1 touchdown, was everybody else rolling it up, but Tommy, they still score 41 points.
Well, amazing number of weapons, and I think that when I talked with them last week, they wanted to get Marshall Faulk involved in the running game, spread the offensive wide receivers, and open up the run lanes inside. He got hurt early last week. This week, he had a chance to run the ball the way they want him to.
Ran for 181, caught for 30. Wow. Talk about a team that is one of the nicest stories in a long time. It's always fun when you see a team that for years and years and years has been horrible. Then they come roaring up. The city of St. Louis has never seen a playoff game in football. Not with the Cardinals, certainly not with the Rams. But the St. Louis Rams, home today against Cleveland, have certainly risen from the ashes. And the expansion Browns, you know, they have yet to win a game. That day will come. But against the 5-0 Rams, Marshall Faulk. Now, he spent the night in the St. Louis hospital with food poisoning, but then all of a sudden, here he is. Kurt Warner to Faulk for 8. Draw play to Faulk for 11 yards. So, no problem here, and they Figure they spoon some more of Falk out, and it's 9 more yards. And then, Tom, why does this work only for NFC teams?
I don't know.
Shovel pass. 13 yards down to the 1. On the next play, figure we use Marshall Falk. No, it's a decoy, and Kurt Warner, touchdown pass number 16, Roland Williams, touchdown, 7-0 Rams.
Yeah, and you take a look at Marquez Pope here at the top of the screen. Now, here he has to get the run-pass read. By the time he realizes it's a pass, Williams is already behind him and into the corner of the end zone.
On the Rams kickoff, Ronnie Powell will try to move it for Cleveland, but it's a fumble. And Charlie Clemens, the big man, Clarence Clemens, but Charlie Clemens has it for the Rams. Blowing the sacks. Warner to the Reverend Isaac Bruce. We've seen this before. 4-yard touchdown, 14-0 the Rams. 8 TDs this year to Isaac Bruce. 14-3 in the second. Warner to Roland Williams. Roland the headless Thompson gunner. 21-3 St. Louis.
Yeah, the guys on the outside and inside, Raheem Abdullah. You got a guy running a pattern right at the line of scrimmage. You have a second-level guy running at the back of the end zone. The defense has to play an in-and-out coverage, and right there they miss it.
Well, Marshall Falk head to the locker room at halftime for an IV, but he comes back. Meanwhile, last couple of seconds of the first half, Tim Couch. Couch is going to score to the 20, to the 15, to the 10, to the 5, and Couch trips over the ottoman. A Dick Van Dyke play. He almost made a great play, but he's knocked out just before half, so it's 21-3. What about Orlando?
And talk about folding the defensive line. Look at Orlando Pace pin 3 Browns right there.
Falk back after the shot at halftime. Look at the whoop with the move and the whoop. He bounces outside. 33-yard touchdown. My goodness, the guy had food poisoning. Dropped the chalupa. The Rams win 34-3. 133 yards for Falk rushing, 200 when they add in his receiving yards. The Browns are still waiting, but this was not a game with the way the St. Louis Rams have been a juggernaut, Tommy, that Cleveland was going to come back and win, that's for sure. And you know what impresses us about the Rams so much? Offense, defense, and special teams, although they've lost their kick returner Horn for 4 weeks. Ba-boom, they have some big plays.
All 3 areas of the football team complementing each other very well. And you look at today, it was typical for the St. Louis Rams. The first 3 drives, they have the football. Kurt Warner takes them into the end zone. They get touchdowns. So all of a sudden, up 21, up 14, up 17, what have you. Suddenly the defense can play from a perspective now of getting after the other football team. So, yeah, it's a whole team concept, and I think that Coach Vermeil has done a great job of it.
We talked to him at halftime of our thrilling game on Thursday night that involved the Baltimore Ravens. The Chiefs played okay. And Dick said, you know, we just have speed on both sides of the ball, and that will present a lot of big-time plays we're seeing with St. Louis. Now, they're at Tennessee next week, and who would have thought that's the preview to the Super Bowl, huh? On Halloween, St. Louis at Tennessee. Yeah, they got Carolina twice. They got New Orleans twice. They got home games with the Giants in Chicago. This doesn't look like it's loaded with minefields. Meanwhile, as we go inside the numbers, I know, we're just putting these up here. Dan Marino's record-setting year in 1984 with the 48 touchdown passes and the 5,084 yards. Kurt Warner is still ahead of Marino's pace, and we're over a third of the way through the season. Inside the... On Halloween, St. Louis 6-0 and Tennessee 5-1 on the frozen tundra of Adelphia.
Javon Curse working against offensive tackle Fred Miller. You see him right there. And he got 6 false starts during the course of the day. There you can see him just coming up out of his stance a little early. Coach Vermeil getting on him. And again, right there is 6 penalties on him during the day for that alone.
Tennessee has made it a 4th and 10 until Warner to Hakeem. First down. Tennessee with the big first quarter lead for Jeff Fisher is now 6-1. And St. Louis falls. The last of the undefeated falls for the first time. 24-21. Tennessee wins it. Despite the fact that Marshall Falk had close to 200 yards in total offense, it was 6 sacks for Tennessee, 97 yards in penalties for St. Louis. And, hey, give Tennessee credit. They came out of the gates and said, hey, we know we're going to need to score points. Let's get a bunch, right?
Well, everybody talked about the Rams getting the early lead and how would the Titans respond if that happened. It happened in just the reverse fashion. The Titans come out force the turnovers early, get the big lead, have to hang on. But they're a very smart defense, I think an underrated defense. They played well during those 8-8 seasons the last couple of years. Now they have an offense that goes with. And even though Eddie George is not doing the job that he usually does running the football, they've incorporated him in the pass receiving aspect of the game, doing a great job of getting the ball into the end zone. And, you know, Steve McNair, what a great game back for him.
Yeah, great game back, and now they know they can win with both quarterbacks, McNair and O'Donnell, and we really didn't think that St. Louis was going to go undefeated, although they made a game every day. But who knows? Tennessee wins it because the first 6 games, we go inside the numbers, the Rams, as you mentioned, Tom, outscored opponents 66-9. Today, it was 21-0 Titans. What a reversal. That's why they lost.
Inside the Numbers is brought to you by
Seattle and to the Chicago Bears. Rams, Lions, Tommy, and this game was fun right from the get-go. But to combat the K-ball, Tom, we got to the third quarter. Batch is thumped.
Outside the 5-yard area.
So now on the Batch and Farrat with the hug. Remember, Farrat led him to a big win at home in relief of Batch against Minnesota. So the Lions getting outstanding backup quarterbacking on the 4th and long. They win it by the count of 31-27. And so the Detroit Lions, with a record of 6-2, because they've now beaten the Rams, they have the best record in the NFC.
Well, and certainly games don't come down often to one play, and we don't talk about one single play often, but when you have a 4th down and 26 and the game on the line, you have to understand what the offense needs. They're not going to be breaking routes off short because they're not sure the exact distance that they need to get the first down. So they're going to be running go routes. You saw Dexter McCleon not get turned in time. And then I thought another key was the fact that the Rams did not run the ball as well as they have. The 11 carries for 15 yards for Marshall Faulk did not do a good job of taking the pressure off of Kurt Warner. So you saw the Lions play some better defense today.
Neither team ran the ball well at all. I mean, 3 more touchdown passes for Warner. He now has 24 halfway through the season. But all of a sudden, the St. Louis Rams, 2 very exciting and close games, but they've lost 2 in a row after winning 6 in a row. As we go inside the numbers, Lions defense is not only what they've done offensively. You see the comparison to last year. Takeaways almost even after 8 games to what they had all last year. And the sacks are, what, about 2/3 of the way there. So better defense, good things happen when you move the ball a little offensively, get a lead here and there. And the Detroit Lions have now beaten Minnesota, Green Bay, Tampa Bay, and St. Louis in the Lions' den. Do I hear dangerous home field? To St. Louis, where the Rams were 6-0, now 6-2, and George Seifert has beaten him 13 straight times when he coached the Niners. He comes in with Carolina. But boy, does Kurt Warner throw a pretty ball. That's touchdown pass 25 on the year for him to Isaac Bruce. 22-yard touchdown, tying at 7 first quarter. And then you're in St. Louis. I said a Bud Light. It's Todd Light picking off Steve Berline. 57 yards. 4th pick of the year for Light. He's been a guiding light for St. Louis. 14-7 Rams. And you know what? People forget, Tommy, St. Louis has some real big-time players on defense.
Well, and Kevin Carter is one of them. You watch him coming from the top of the screen, and look at this rush. Now, watch his speed rush from outside. There he goes past the tackle, comes around and gets a piece of Berline. Then you're going to see him make another move here. This is going to be against the double team, and just watch him come inside, and this is great push by a defensive end. Pushes right back, the pressure right back on Berline, comes through, and gets another sack.
4 sacks, 8 hits, 9 pressures. That's just the first half. 2.5 sacks for Carter on the day. With the score 21-10 in the third. Berline to Wesley Walls. But it's a fumble. And Mike Jones. Knocking Jones. 37 yards. He coasts his way in for a touchdown at 28-10. Panthers came in off a big win. Thought they could beat the Rams. But I tell you what, St. Louis has impressed us even in defeat the last couple of weeks. And they blast Carolina 35-10, and again, offense, defense working off each other. Tom.
Well, the Kevin Carters, Grant Winston, Todd Light guys who can make big plays, and they can do that and play opportunistic defense when they get that early lead.
And Warner, 2 touchdown passes, now has 26. He threw for 286 yards. Bruce Conklin 2-20 his last 22 games. Hey, after 17 straight losses to the 49ers, the Rams trying to sweep San Francisco. Steve Stenstrom and Terrell Owens. Just play sum up both teams, Tom. Terrell Owens with about a 40-yard pickup but he's hit by Billy Jenkins at the fumble, and Devin Bush picks it up, and we go the other way. Mariucci says, oh, my God, I've seen this all year. 3-0 Rams, Charlie Garner.
Watch J.J. Stokes here. Just take a look at the blocking. They've always been noted, the 49ers, for great blocking by their wide receivers. He gets one guy. He moves. He gets another guy, chops him down, and a large Charlie Garner to get a 30-yard gain down the field.
And then memories of the old days. It's Fred Beasley. He scores, and the Niners lead 7-3 to the enjoyment of Steve Young. But it's the Rams' year, and Kurt Warner, quarterback, draw him. And then they fear no evil here, setting up a first down. Warner rolls out, hits Isaac Bruce for his 5th touchdown against San Francisco this year, his 11th TD of the season. 13-7 third quarter. Stenstrom tipped by DeMarco Farr, picked off by Mike Jones, and along came Jones. 44 yards, 7th return touchdown for the Rams this year. So after the Niners had an early lead, St. Louis goes on to beat him 23-7, just 1 touchdown pass for Warner. That gives him 27 on the year. Marshall Faulk ran for 126. Bruce caught 11 balls. Hey, the St. Louis Rams at 8-2 are in the division making a mockery. They are, what, 4 up in the NFC West. My God, we're not even at Thanksgiving. Speaking of going strong, the St. Louis Rams have just gone 5-0 at home this year, and Mike Ditka did not have Ricky Williams for the Saints. After a 4-game suspension back a week ago was Tony Horn of Horn, who's returned 2 touchdowns. What I'm trying to say is he has 2 touchdowns this year. That's a 64-yard return. You get the point. 3 plays later, Kurt Warner, Torrey Holt, inside the pylon. The only thing that could stop him is this cord. 25-yard touchdown, 7-0, the Rams. Next possession, Warner under pressure. Willie Whitehead, did he not get the message from this show or the league? Stop it! You're going to get the fine soon enough. After 3 field goals gives the Saints a 9-7 lead. Then Horn gets going again, Tom.
Well, and look at the little wall that he has. He's going to find his block. Does a great job of setting up blocks right there and getting to the sideline and getting the ball well out toward midfield.
And then they can do such smooth work with Warner and Faulk.
Well, you saw the nice play fake there off the run action, goes downfield. A nice job of hitting Isaac Bruce on the sideline. And again, the play action pass to them is just tremendous.
And look at the pump fake. That's an old-fashioned play, which Marshall Faulk scores a touchdown.
Statue of Liberty. They used to run it in my day.
So it's 22-12. Dick Vermeil's squad struggled with the Saints, but here they go. Now 29-12. Warner, Torrey Holt. He's got 29 TD passes in 11 games. And the Rams. You know, a year ago, Dick Vermeil, Jim Hannafin, Frank Gans, Mike White, Liz Stiles, a couple guys who aren't with him this year. Well, the game had passed them by. Oh, I don't think so. Rams 43, Saints 12. They're 9-2. Tommy at home. They've won by 17, 28, 22, 31, 25, and what, 31?
Yeah, and you see the great balance between the throwing of Kurt Warner and the running of Marshall Faulk.
In the AFC, tripping over a trunk averaged more than the Jets did. At any rate, St. Louis missed a play, but he came back in and
Bottom of the screen, that's Isaac Bruce and Torrey Holt at the top of the screen. This pass going to great blocking by wide receivers down.
Look at this. Nice guys do finish first. At 62 years of age, Dick Vermeil knew nothing. At 63 years of age, he's a genius. Rams 34, Panthers 21. They win the West, their first division title since '85, their first playoff berth since 1989, first 10-2 mark since 1978. Understandably emotional was Dick Vermeil.
I can't tell you. It's an unbelievable feeling. It really is. I thought that with the right kind of people around me, I could do it again. I don't like to use the word but I thought we could do it again.
Kurt Warner, by the way, 3 touchdown passes, Tommy, 32. That's a new Rams record, breaking the old mark by Jim Everett. He's only the 25th quarterback to throw 30 or more in one season. And here's what's so impressive about the Rams. Carolina was capable. 21-0 right away. Get out. Then they come to within 3 points. The defense scores. Get out. They're not afraid to go for the jugular on both sides of the ball.
Well, mental attitude developed by Coach Vermeil. They have great resiliency. And when you talk about this football team and what they've been able to accomplish thus far this year, I think you talk about all three phases of the game. Defense and special teams, opportunistic defense and special teams, 8 touchdowns. The record is 13, so they still have time. They have 4 games left. And as Chris said, you've got Kurt Warner and Marshall Faulk leading that offense. The guy has thrown more touchdowns than anybody in the rich history of the Rams.
Faulk almost had 200 yards combined rushing, receiving. Congratulations to the Rams. Rams in the playoffs for the first time since 1989, and Marshall Faulk, his hometown is New Orleans. Was he excited? Of course, it cost him. He had to buy 75 tickets to watch him play, and the Saints had a surprise. It's Billy Joe Tolliver to Cam Cleveland. The Saints led 14-7 in the second quarter. But, I mean, just St. Louis can do so many things. Here's a pass that Billy Joe Tolliver wanted his receiver to do something else, Tom. Todd Light, his 6th interception of the season. He's hit a Bud Light. And then the Rams, look at Warner.
Well, this is a great scramble by Kurt Warner and the throw to Ricky Pro, but just watch his eyes. Look at his head. He keeps his head up and down the field when he gets a chance, so he gives himself a chance as a quarterback to make a play when the pocket breaks down. That's the key to great quarterbacking, at least one of.
This is a little more by design. In the pocket under a little pressure, the cross to Isaac Bruce, the Reverend, 34 yards down to the 4, setting up a Marshall Faulk touchdown. The Rams would lead 17-14. They wouldn't be headed after that. Dexter McClan has had a couple of tough moments, but he's had some big plays like this. His 3rd pick of the year. Rams take advantage. They could go to the jugular, Tommy. Kurt Warner to Marshall Faulk, 30-yard touchdown pass, 24-14 St. Louis at the half. 3rd quarter, it's Marshall Faulk in his hometown. He explodes. And then illegal play, Willie Clay is flagged for what? A face mask on the play, adding to the 33 run. Marshall Faulk, 154 yards rushing, 210 on the day. The Rams spot the Saints to lead. They go on to win it 30-14. Their record is 11-2. The first team to go undefeated in a division ever after going winless in a division the year before. This just did Marshall Faulk. He's good, 1,900 total yards.
And only 280 needed receiving to break the 1,000 mark, both rushing and receiving. 280 a lot to ask, but maybe Marshall Faulk can get it done.
When we were
today.
The Giants resurgent at 7-6. Let's talk about a resurgent team. Dick Vermeil's Rams, they won home field advantage throughout the playoffs. At 11-2, would they get it? Kurt Warner, Dazar Keem. His first called no touchdown out of the back. The officials conferred, Tommy, and this is what they discussed.
I think you can see clearly that Akeem would have come down in the end zone. Conrad Hamilton pulled him out. I think the refs do a great job there of conferring and, again, getting the call right.
It's a touchdown, and it's 10-0 Rams. Then Warner rolls out under pressure, jumps to Marshall Faulk, and Faulk is over 2,000 yards from scrimmage for the 2nd straight season. Boy, the Rams, they get the lead, and they have so many things to throw at you, but the Giants made a game of it. This is a pretty play from Kerry Collins to Tiki Barber. Look at the speed, and Tiki's out at the 2, which sets up 3rd and goal from the 2. Collins, oops, they settle for a field goal. The score 10-3 now. 2nd down. Werewolves of London, Fletcher with a 4-yard loss of Greg Camella. So that sets up 3rd and 11, and here comes the defense. Here comes the pressure, and Devin Bush makes the pick.
Yeah, great job by Devin Bush coming over the top once the quarter had the initial coverage. And Chris, look at them run.
They run. Everybody in this team is fast, offense and defense. 4th quarter, same score. Warner. And he takes a little screen pass. And it's 65 yards. Look at him run, Tom. Gone. 24-3 with a block from one of his wide receiver friends.
Well, and Isaac Bruce only had 2 catches for 39 yards. But again, look at the receivers helping each other out with a great block.
Tommy, do they all run? Mike Jones. Along came Jones. Picks off Collins. Gone. 7 defensive touchdowns, 10 return touchdowns for the Rams. The record is 13 last year by the Seahawks. And the Rams at home continue to win by about 25 points a game. They're 12-2. They just demolished the Giants 31-10. And the Rams, I mean, they can force the action both sides all the time.
Well, I think at this point it's all about mindset. A team that's on a roll. They're playing well in all phases. And as we said, I don't think we've seen a team this fast for a long time in all phases of the game.
The 2 leaders in the East, Tom. The NFC East leading Skins in the wasn't picked off, and No turnovers for Atlanta. What a surprise. They won the game. Hey, the St. Louis Rams at home against the Chicago Bears. The Rams have averaged winning games at home by 25 points a game. Chicago bringing the lumber early. Jeff Robinson nailed by Tony Parrish. Nice touch, though, by Kurt Warner, but they paid for it, and Sean Harris with the interception. Look at the speed of DeMarco Ford. Forces the fumble. Grant Wistrom picks it up, but Bobby Ingram is chasing the big lineman and actually gets the ball back for the Bears. They reviewed it, but they said Bears ball. So we're scoreless in the second until Kurt Warner from the 48 to Marshall Faulk. Now watch the convoy and watch the second gear. Whoop! Right there. Gone. 48 yards, 7-0 St. Louis.
Boomer, he may be shifting in the fifth here. It happened around the 35-yard line. He's going to run about 15 yards. Look at him set up the block and watch when he kicks it in gear right there. Not going to catch that before he gets to the end zone.
Later on in the second quarter, Warner, the little swing to Faulk, and he's going to swing past everyone for 42 yards. Sets up to Roland Williams, 2-yard touchdown. Faulk, 10 catches for 168 in the first half. Wow. Rams defense, hey, they're all fast. They all have hands. They all can score. That's right, the defense. Grant Wistrom with the pick on Shane Matthews. And he could go all the way. 40 yards at this point. It's 31-0.
And watch the athleticism of Grant Wistrom. We take another look. He actually reaches back and catches the ball behind him. Boom.
In this game, Marshall Faulk caught 12 for 204. He joins Roger Craig, who did it in 1985, as the only 1,000-yard back. 1,000 yards rushing, 1,000 receiving, 3 touchdown passes for Kurt Warner, gives him 39, tying him for third best all time. Marino had over 40 twice. Brett Favre at 39 once, and now Kurt Warner has 39. Tommy, I mean, the St. Louis Rams, I mean, their last non-turf dome game is a meaningless game next Sunday at Philadelphia. They're fast, they're on turf, they're indoors, they're going to be tough to beat.
Well, Boom, I hear you reel off all those numbers synonymous with being a pretty good football team, and I think we were all surprised at the beginning of the year from what we saw from the Rams. It has now become routine. Another 3-touchdown effort from the quarterback, Kurt Warner. Marshall Faulk, a tremendous day, both rushing and receiving. An opportunistic defense that not only gets the ball, but gets the ball into the end zone. As Boom said, they now know that at least in the playoffs, they will be playing at home. And I asked the question, who, when we look at the rest of the NFC, who can beat this ball club? I don't see one.
Either a superhuman defensive effort in the TWA Dome by a team like Tampa, superhuman defense, or a team that's going to score 40 points and let it air out like Minnesota or Washington. Those look like the only type of clubs that have a shot at all. New York Jets. More on that in a moment. As for the Rams, Dick Vermeil was going home to Philadelphia. St. Louis Rams coming in as kings of the NFC. The Rams at 13-2. And early on, it's the defense, which has been so good. They tip a ball by Donovan McNabb. And here's Mike Jones. This defense has scored 8 TDs themselves, and he almost does it down to the 8-yard line, setting up Kurt Warner. And isn't it interesting, his 40th touchdown pass is underhand. Shovel pass to Marshall Faulk. He joins Dan Marino as the only 2 quarterbacks ever to throw for 40 or more in one season. Congratulations. Look at Marshall Faulk, his second year.
And he is so fast, but he runs under control as you watch the subtle little cuts and then the great job of covering up the ball at the end of that run, Boom.
Well, and he breaks Barry Sanders' record for yards from scrimmage. The record was 2.358. Faulk shatters it. But meanwhile, Donovan McNabb, the Eagles had Christmas week off. They had 2 weeks to prepare for the Rams. As we told you on NFL Countdown, they would go deep against the Rams and try and play their game. And look at the moves by Torrance Small on Todd Light. Good night. The Eagles have cut it to 14-10. Faulk, 106 yards, 2 TDs first half. He would sit, but Kurt Warner still playing third quarter. Picked off by Mike Mamula. Rubbing, bubbling, stubbling, 41 yards. What a great play for a touchdown.
We've seen 2 like this in 2 weeks. Last week it was Grant Wistrom of the Rams. This week Mike Mamula, and watch the one-handed catch. He pins it to his body with the left hand and starts upfield. What a great play by the defensive end.
Later in the third quarter, on 3rd and 13, Warner to Torrey Holt, 15 yards. We're tied at 24, and Warner would come out of the game, but a lot of the Rams starters playing into the third quarter. Now, in the fourth quarter, Joe Germain would come in at quarterback. Avoids 1 sack, but he should have taken the sack. That wounded duck to Al Harris. Touchdown. 7 turnovers forced by the Eagle defense. Remember, they did the same thing to New England in their last game 2 weeks ago? I know the Rams had all the yards. They had, what, over 400 as usual, actually 440. But the game and gutty Eagles beat the Rams on getaway day 38-31. Should I be concerned if I'm St. Louis?
I don't think so. Other than the turnovers, the biggest number in football is rushing and rush defense. The Rams rushed for over 200 yards. They held the Eagles to under 50. I think they think those will sustain them in the playoffs.
And there's nothing more fun than watching a young team win a game against a better team at the end of the year. Maybe this is a building block. We have 2 weeks left here, pal. He's not that slow.
That's correct.
No. Well, we begin today in St. Louis, which has never hosted an NFL playoff game. 5 years with the Rams, 28 with the Cardinals. But today, not only does the gateway to the West get its first, it gets the most anticipated game of this or maybe any other season. You want long ball? You want McGuire and Sosa? You want UNLV against Loyola Marymount? We present the high-flying Rams of Kurt Warner and company, who's 526 points, third best in NFL history, against the Minnesota Vikings, who last year set that record for points with 556, and who are 9-2 behind Jeff George and have that high-wire act working again. Of course, the Rams finished 13-3, perfect 8-0 at home in the TWA Dome, where they flew to wins by an average of 25 points a game, scoring 35 points a game there. Offensive stalwarts abound. Warner had 41 touchdown passes. Only Dan Marino has ever had more. Marshall Faulk led in total yards, the best ever in NFL. He's the second ever 1,000-yard back. But the 10-6 Vikings are hot too. 4 straight wins, scoring about 28 points a game behind Boy George. And oh boy, Robert Smith healthy, had 140 yards last week as the Vikings dusted Dallas 27-10. Plus, for you history majors in the playoffs, most in the 70s, of course, Minnesota 5-1 lifetime against the then Hollywood Rams. To the teeth of an offensive flurry with, fittingly, Jaws. And Jaws, this should be fun.
Thank you, Boomer. Prevailing NFL opinion suggests that most games are won or lost in the fourth quarter. However, the statistics point out that in this matchup, it could be won or lost in the first quarter. Talk about explosive. The Rams have outscored their opponent 123-49 in the first quarter. Here at the TWA Dome, that number is 69-16. The Rams' prescription for success: come out early, 3 and 4 wide, attack down the field, and manufacture points out of the passing game.
It's a game where you want to set the tempo early, and I'm sure both defenses having to face 2 of the most explosive offenses in the game. We want to go out and make a statement early.
In the locker room, we are hoping that we get the ball first so we can go out there and strike first and go ahead and march down the field and score.
If you let a team get out on you, it actually dictates the pace in which you have to try to get back in the game. And, you know, typically if you can get out on the team, you can dictate. And, of course, we would like to eliminate that.
That's our plan, to go out and try to score some points early and throughout the game, really, but, you know, especially early on in the game.
Dick Vermeil developed a statistical profile to determine what it takes to reach the Super Bowl. He looked no further than the 2-time defending Super Bowl champions.
You study, for example, what Denver has done, and nobody's done any better than they have in the last few years. They've been an attacking team early and a running team late. They've blended the running game in rather than blend the passing game in. And then in the second half, going into the fourth quarter, they built up some points, a lead, and then you start pounding on them and, you know, ball control and eat up the clock. And we sort of taken that approach.
Vermeil was relaxed and confident at yesterday's workout, but he's still very much concerned about the Vikings' big play offense and the ability of the Vikings' defense to play the situations very well, particularly in the red zone. Look for the Rams to try to score outside the 20-yard line. Boomer, this has all the makings of one of those old AFL shootouts. Buckle up.
Yeah, we like those, Jaws. And Jaws, by the way, the last starting quarterback for Dick Vermeil in the playoffs, 1981, for the Philadelphia Eagles. Back to Jaws in St. Louis a little bit later on. Well, truly, St. Louis, guys, is Minnesota 1 year removed, Mortimer.
Exactly. And I really go back to the regular season opener when the Baltimore Ravens played the St. Louis Rams. And right after that game, Brian Billick, the head coach of the Ravens,
sent you an email.
Yeah, sorry, former offensive coordinator of the Vikings, told me, Mort, if you want to look smart, you better get on the Rams bandwagon because they have pretty similar talent, almost as much talent as I had in Minnesota a year ago. Great wide receivers, great running game, and it's going to take a turf team, a dome team like the Vikings to give them a challenge.
Well, here's what usually happens. When you go in to play the Rams, before you leave the team hotel, they have already eliminated your running game, which means you have to throw the football. That is why no running back this year had as much as 80 yards running against them. So you have to throw the ball. We're entered the most prolific duo of receivers in Chris Carter and Randy Moss in the 1999 to 2000 season. They love to throw the football. So the question, I think, goes to who's going to cover. We know the Rams secondary is probably the weak point of that team. Who's going to cover Moss, Carter, and Jake Reed?
Well, the real question is being asked by St. Louis is who's going to cover our receivers?
Exactly.
I think they feel that they have been forgotten with this Randy Moss and Chris Carter thing and all the efficiency of the Minnesota Vikings defense. They are going to test the Vikings defense. They're going to run 4 wides, 5 wides, including Marshall Faulk at the beginning of this game. Although they won't be in a 2-minute offense, they will be in a hurry-up situation so that they can maintain personnel from the Vikings to be the same on the football field. It's going to be a real test for the Vikings D.
It is, and I talked to Kurt Warner just the other day, and he said if it comes down to a shootout, he said, we'll be ready. We heard so many things like Tommy said about their offense, their firepower. He said, we have some guys on our side of the ball. Don't forget Isaac Bruce, 12 touchdowns, over 1,000 yards receiving. And, of course, our running back, Marshall Faulk, the do-it-all guy. He can do it all. Over 1,000 yards rushing and receiving. And one of the keys to this game, and you heard a lot of players talking about, is getting up on them quick, scoring early. And the reason for that, they get the 12th man behind them. How much home field advantage means to that defense. Getting guys like Kevin Carter upfield quickly. Everybody knows about Jeff George, an explosive, the quick release he has. If he has time to throw that football and get the ball to Moss, Carter, and them, they can make it very hard on the Rams early.
Well, talk about early, and let me elaborate on something, and let me go back to something Sterling said, something we've talked about all season long. I've chosen just a few games, and there's a reason for this. The Rams leads. Now, the reason it's turned out that none of these teams, were playoff teams, but let's go back in time. The Falcons were the defending NFC champs. They come into St. Louis in Week 3. The Rams are up 28-0 right away. The Niners, who had beaten the Rams 17 straight times, they come into St. Louis, it's 21-3. The Panthers, the last remaining NFC West team to have a shot at them, especially the road game in Week 13, 21-0 lead on the road. And then the last home game, the last game that they played everyone, they're up on the Bears 17-0. The point is, Minnesota, who trailed Dallas 17-0 on a Monday night to win that game, and who trailed Dallas 10-3 in the playoff game to come back to win that, and in the last game they lost, trailed at Kansas City 21-0, came back to tie it, but lost the close game on Sunday night. Don't try to get behind again, Minnesota, because the Rams, when they get you up like that, they bury you. And those were all games Dick Vermeil talked about as challenge games, and we've answered every challenge. So Minnesota's got to come out smoking very early. They can't lay back. More on that theme a little bit later. Once again, everybody, and welcome to Divisional Sunday NFL Primetime. Chris Berman along with Tom Jackson. Always exciting when we know who the final pieces are to the Final Four. And, well, we expected high wire early. We got it.
Very similar in a way to what we saw yesterday from our first 2 participants that got in.
Yes. Early. Whoop. Late.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. We will explain the sound effects here on NFL Primetime. Well, 33 years of football in the National Football League in St. Louis, 28 with the Cardinals, 5 with the Rams, and finally, a home playoff game. And the St. Louis Rams have one of the most fun seasons you could ever imagine. 526 points scored this year for Dick Vermeil's 13-3 Rams was the 3rd best total ever in NFL history. The best total ever, last year's Minnesota Vikings, who tallied 556 points. This year's edition, not quite the same scoring machine, but with 4 straight wins, including last week against Dallas, here came the Vikes, wondering if St. Louis would be wobbly with their first playoff game. Well, this was a game that you knew that would be played above the rim. Fitting, an aerial show at the TWA Dome between 2 of the high-flying acts in the NFL. Dick Vermeil, first playoff game since '81 when he was at the Eagles. Kurt Warner, to Isaac Bruce, and boy, did the Rams get on you early. 77 yards, the second longest postseason pass play in Ram history. Only Mr. Outside Glenn Davis put 82 yards back in 1950 on a pass from Waterfield. 7-3 Rams.
Isaac Bruce in the slot. Take a look at the safety at the top of the screen. He gets on top of him very quick, runs to the opposite numbers, and he is gone with a perfect throw from Kurt Warner.
Not all the throws have to be long. As a matter of fact, a lot of them are the short variety, like this one to Marshall Faulk. We talk about the second burners he has. Watch this. Whoop! It's a different speed. Whoop! He's in the end zone, 41 yards, 14-3. Da-da.
The Rams talked about the matchup between Dwayne Rudd and Marshall Faulk. That's Dwayne Rudd with the arrow on him. Watch him try to get to the screen. He gets cut down, does a great job of getting up, making an effort to get back to Marshall Faulk, and then look at Marshall Faulk shift it into the next gear, run across the field, and he has great balance, runs under control. Combine that with great speed to get a touchdown.
And this is what happens. You have the lead, and here comes the St. Louis defense. Charlie Clements, the big man, makes George feel like a saxophone. Then, Rams ball first and 10 of the 47. Warner looking for Isaac Bruce. But the Vikings defense, Jimmy Hitchcock taking 39 steps to make the interception. And the Vikings then, although they start the drive on their own 4, they say, look, we can score. George to Randy Moss, 23 yards. On 3rd and 14, George. Jake Reed, 41 yards. Second down now at the 22. George, 9-2 as a starter. To Chris Carter, all he does?
Catch touchdown.
22 yards, 14-10, the Vikings within 4. Then all of a sudden, the Rams. Marshall Faulk ran for only 21 yards today, and this is a fumble. Robert Griffith, right there, picks it up for Minnesota. So Minnesota, they go to work. George, Randy Moss. Now look at the big fella, almost split it all the way, but he goes down to the 6. Which a play later on 2nd and goal from the 4. Leroy Hort and the Minnesota Vikings. Boy, they fall behind, but they come back. It's 17-14. And Evander Holyfield enjoying the heavyweight battle. Second half kickoff, 17-14 Vikes. Tony Horn, 2 kickoff returns this year for touchdowns. Tony Horn of plenty. Outside. Boy, everyone on this team is fast. He could go all the way. 95 yards. 21-17 Rams, bobbing and weaving on the second half kickoff top.
You take a look at Tony Horn fielding this kick, and if you saw this game, they almost had 2 or 3 returns for touchdowns. Great view of the hole, great speed to get to the gap, and once Tony Horn sees the gap, holds his balance right there, and he's off to the races.
And speaking of off to the races, here comes the Rams scoring onslaught. Faulk, 1-yard touchdown, 28-17. Still third quarter. Remember, they trailed 17-14 at the half. Warner to Robert Holcomb. First down inside the 15, Tom.
And the reason that Warner had time to throw the ball, look at the block right there by Marshall Faulk on Ed McDaniel, turns him head over heels.
On the next play, Warner to Jeff Robinson, 13-yard touchdown, 35-17. The onslaught continues early in the 4th. Warner to tackle-eligible Ryan Tucker. Guy has 2 touchdowns. He's a tackle.
Ryan Tucker, number 50 at the bottom of the screen. He slips right through the end. The defense read run. He got back behind him for the pass.
Scored one against the Lions, and now he scores one against the Vikes, and then Warner to Roland Williams. 49-17. They've scored 35 points in 22 minutes. 5 touchdown passes for Warner. George throwing deep, just trying to get the Vikings a shot. Randy Moss is looking for interference, and you know what? He's a wonderful, wonderful player. But he squirts this at the ref. Cut it out, Randy. Grow up. Your 3rd year next year. You're one of the best talents in the league. We don't need this. In the end, Kurt Warner, 5 touchdown passes to continue his Cinderella season. And Dick Vermeil, he said, I don't think this team knows how good it can be. Wow. Can it be better than what they showed this year, Tom, and what they showed today? 49-37 in a game that wasn't that close, as Warner and George combined for throwing while it was George, and actually in a regulation game. In other words, not overtime. His 424 yards were the most passing yards, but they were all after Warner, threw for 391 and 5 touchdowns. Dick Vermeil says, you know what, my quarterback, he's pretty good.
Are you surprised? Okay. I mean, he's special. I've said that all along. He's special. From what I understand, he was 27 for 33. That's a pretty good day's work.
3 or 4 games in this year, we expected ourselves to be here and we expected ourselves to be winning this game. So to us, you know, this is just one step. We've got a long ways to go from what we feel we can accomplish.
Nothing that, you know, I take from this game that's going to really have me moping around. I think I've got used to losing. I've got used to losing somewhat.
It's going to be a great matchup. You know, it's going to be, you know, our strength with our offense against their strength, their defense. And, you know, it's going to be a fun game to be a part of. This team seems to thrive on challenges, and that's going to be another one for this offense. And, you know, we're going to be looking forward to it.
Really, today, I think, was a real, hopefully, we painted a glaring picture that we really don't have any obvious weaknesses.
Whoa. Well, you know what I mean? He's just being honest. This isn't a boastful coach. And you heard Kurt Warner and Tommy talking about the game next week, which we'll talk about later. Opposite styles against Tampa in a rematch 20 years later, the '79 championship game, Rams and Buccaneers. Tommy, the Rams throw that knockout punch early. They're up 14-3. Most of the times they get rid of other teams. To Minnesota's credit, they came back. So the Rams says, okay, we tried the infantry. Here come the artillery. 35 points in 22 minutes. Goodbye.
Well, I think when you talk about this offense and that phase of their game, they are able to stretch you not only vertically, they stretch you horizontally with the speed. Chris referenced the short passes that he can throw to Azakim and Isaac Bruce, and they can take those balls. Marshall Faulk, we can take it all the way to the house. So I think that when you have that ability, you come out and no matter what the defense is doing, if the safeties are playing deep, then you throw the short passes across. But you also have the guys who can get through the seam if they play too close to the line. You know, I think they put you in a quandary and in a bind that you really can't solve right now.
27 completions to 10 different receivers for Kurt Warner, and oh, by the way, almost 400 yards. Now, the Vikings, look, they gave up 49 points. I mean, in the end, the Rams, it looked like they were going to win the game. But they had some things working for a while. They got away from it. But the special teams did him in on the return and then a fumble in the
Special teams did them in, but I think defensively you had to pick your poison. I think that they made up their minds that they were going to play up to the line of scrimmage, especially with the linebackers. We are going to stop the run. We are going to force them to be a one-dimensional football team. It's just too bad that that one dimension may be the best passing game in the NFL right now. And I think without a doubt, the way they're playing, this game looks better than what the Vikings showed us even last year.
And playoff jitters?
They didn't have them.
Didn't see any. The second highest scoring game in NFL playoff history, the 86 combined points. Only Philly and Detroit in 95 was more than that. And as we go inside the numbers, Kurt Warner is now on a pretty good list. Oh, by the way, we never heard of him. We thought he was a Seattle running back until September. 41 touchdowns in the regular season and 5 today. Just look at the names on the list. Of course, Steve Young in Super Bowl 29 and Darryl LaMonica, the Mad Bomber, had 6 touchdown passes in a postseason game. Kay Warner joins Jay Montana and S. Luckman and the Mad Bomber again with 5 touchdown passes. The old Ram team record, 3. Bob Waterfield and Vince Ferragamo.
What a positive impact Aeneas Williams has had on this defense. They are the #2 defense in the league. Great job right here, stripping the ball from Antonio Freeman. Look at it in slow motion. Got control. Good call by the official right there, down by contact.
So now the Rams in business, so they get the ball, but no touchdown on their own 43. Warner. How about this? These are the Rams. Oh, mandatory hold between a pair of Packers. What a catch, what a throw.
Nobody does it better. Look where Kurt Warner puts the football and look at the concentration from Torrey Holt.
March, 7 yards, touchdown, 31-10. I think you know where this game is going. Later on in the third, it would get ugly for one of the great performers in the history of the game at quarterback Brett Favre. Grant Wistrom's had a big year. Tips the ball on the line. Tommy Polley. He wants a touchdown. Polley wants a touchdown. 34 yards. Another defensive score for the Rams, 38-10. Then Favre in the fourth. Off the hands of Green. Aeneas Williams gets a block, and he's gone. The first player ever to return 2 interceptions in the postseason for touchdown. 6 picks for Favre. Kurt Warner and the Rams moving on. My God, the defense scored 3 times. The offense did the rest. 45-17. The St. Louis Rams slice and dice the Green Bay Packers. 8 turnover by the Packers. We told you that Aeneas is in the record books, as is 2 interceptions for a touchdown as a postseason record. Nobody had ever done it twice. Mortimer with Aeneas Williams.
Your first interception, can you just describe what happened there and how it got your team off to the great start?
Well, the key is being a defense. We want to disguise and do different things, and we know that's a rhythm offense. They like to get rid of the ball fast, and was able to get a good read and break on the ball before the receiver did.
A lot of tip passes for Brett Favre. Was that something you guys thought you could do too?
No, we knew we could make plays, Joe. We knew we played fast, and when you get tip balls, you get interceptions like that, it's because you got guys flying around. You look at the film, it's going to look like there are 13 guys on defense, and that's the way we play ball.
And people don't actually realize it. Now, Brett Favre this week, Donovan McNabb next week. You used to play in the NFC East with the Arizona Cardinals. You know McNabb. What can you tell your teammates about him?
Well, the good thing, we had a great game the first game of the season, and maybe that was a show of things to come. It's going to be a great game. Obviously, we have to do some things to keep McNabb in the pocket, and we have to tackle well like we did today.
All right, Boomer, back to you.
Mortimer and Aeneas, thank you very much. So that's the late game now. The St. Louis Rams off of a big opening performance at home against the Philadelphia Eagles late on next Sunday. The Rams must wonder sometimes, what would it be like to play us? A team that turns the ball over a lot of times. My God, today they forced him, and Brett, just in a dome, we love him. He's just goofy in domes.
I love the intensity of the Rams defense as they started the football game today. They came out swarming around the football. They played hard in their coverage. They caught the ball when they had a chance. I thought that they expected Brett Favre to make a couple of throws where they'd have a chance to get the turnovers. But you can't turn the ball over against a football team that turned it over, the Rams, more than any other team in the league. And then I think defensively, this is the time of year now as we move on into the championship round, you bring your defense. The number 1 defense, Pittsburgh, the number 2 defense, the Rams. And I think it's atrocious that those two teams only have defensively 1 Pro Bowler apiece. You look at that, I think they both feel they have something to prove.
Yeah, but they may have 11 Super Bowlers.
That's correct.
Marv Levy always told me, I don't care about Pro Bowl players. I want Super Bowl players. Well, those two teams that you talked about off of today, just one step away. And as for Brett Favre, hey, look, he carried this team on his back, but right away you could see it was just another one of those days for him. The tough performance by the NFC North teams. I mean, Green Bay, Chicago, and Tampa Bay exiting the playoffs with thuds. Not the way they want to go out. Not at all. 8 in a row, and they're heading towards New Orleans. Who will join him? Could it be Nab and Brother Love's Traveling Salvation Show? Andy Reid's Eagles 8-1 on the road this year. They played in the first game of the season, and on the first series of that game, there was a fumble deep in their territory, and they did it again. Leonard Little with the sack on Donovan McNabb, and Brian Young recovers for the Rams on the second play from scrimmage. So you give this team a short field, and Kurt Warner and the Reverend Isaac Bruce going to make you pay for it. As was Troy Vincent playing hurt? Was he picked? Was he just beaten? Whatever it was, Tom, it's 7-0 St. Louis.
Yeah, and the Rams do so many subtle things. You got Isaac Bruce in motion, gives a little bump to Troy Vincent at the line of scrimmage. That enables him to beat him to the corner.
Next possession, Philly. Donovan McNabb. Whoa, and it's hit by Chad Lewis and away from Aeneas Williams, who was there. Remember with the 2 touchdowns last week, McNabb has time, and Nate Brown, he underthrows a wide open Nate Brown, and Donovan not starting that well. Warner faking the pass, ends it to Marshall. But early on, Marshall Faulk was held in check by the Eagles. The Rams will kick a field goal 10-3. Then Faulk, then later on, here's Marshall, 21 yards. Then it gets physical. 2nd and 5, Warner, they hand out to Faulk. Brian Dawkins blitzing, it's a 2-yard loss. Warner, Zakheem, drilled by Dawkins and Bobby Taylor. Jeff Wilkins hits the upright on a 53-yard field goal, still 10-3. McNabb, audible, then Corral, General Buckhalter. Clean, you idiot, 31 yards. Tommy, now they're running.
Well, you see the signal there, the hand signal, the pad on the left hip. Buckhalter comes off that left hip, does a great job of getting into the hole quickly, getting through, and getting a great game.
2 plays later, we got him out of the witness protection program ourselves. It's Chad Lewis down to the 1-yard line. And so the Eagles first and goal, and they have an ace and they have a deuce. It's Deuce Staley, and we are tied at 10 as Deuce warming his head. This is great, Tom. Warming his hands over the ball like a campfire. Marshall running left. Look at vintage Marshall Faulk. Forget a loss behind the yard of scrimmage. Feeling the seam, and the straight arm, Tom, gets him 20 more yards. 31-yard play.
Very Gale Sayers-like when you watch him moving to his left, getting away from a tackle, a potential tackle. Referee does a great job of getting out of the way.
He does.
He's off to a 31-yard gain.
So the Eagles settle down. Now, McNabb to James Thrash. You know, at times the receivers make the good catches. At times, Tommy, the receivers drop balls they should make. Catches they should make. It is McNabb to Lewis for a first down. Throwing to the back, Staley throwing to the tight end, Lewis. That was the bread and butter. McNabb pump fake. Now it's Thrash inside the 10. McNabb 4 for 4 in the drive. Then you want to see a pretty pass. Oh, my goodness. It's there before Todd Pinkston turns around. 17-13 Philly with the lead. McNabb 5 of 6 on the drive. And after Wilkins, it's a field goal in the third quarter, 17-16. Marshall Faulk getting wrapped, but he would be back, and no one wraps him here. Touchdown, 22-17. Timeout, and they go for 2, but they don't make it.
11 plays on that drive. Marshall Faulk touched it 9 times.
And then Faulk from 2 yards out. It's 29-17 as Philly could not stop it. The Landetta had punted, and so now with 3 minutes to go with their timeouts, Philly trying to make a move, and London Fletcher tries to, it gets called for a flag, delay of game, kicking the ball away before they could maybe review something, and McNabb rolls right. It's a power run, makes it 29-24. Under 2 minutes to go. Philly has the ball again after kicking off and forcing a Rams punt. But on 4th and 7, McNabb to Freddie, and who's there? Aeneas Williams. Aeneas Williams, who was to Andy Reid, can only wonder how close and what a fine season the Philadelphia Eagles have had. I know teams have done it lately, but it's tough to go that wild card route and win 3 playoff games, especially when one is against the St. Louis Rams, the team with the best record in football, team now that is 16-2. Philly played him tight, but in the end, Marshall, just too much. As the Rams used their whole arsenal, Andy Reid, after the game just moments ago.
I was proud of our guys and the effort that they gave, and you know, we were down a bit and we came back and got down again and came back, and we continue to fight all the way through. Again, you know, you can go back and we'll look at the mistakes, but for every mistake there was a good play in there too. So it's a very empty feeling when you get this far for players, coaches, and our owner and organization. It's a very empty feeling when you get this far and you don't get to the Super Bowl. And
absolutely, but the Eagles, kind of the old-fashioned route, Tom. They lost in the divisional round last year, lost in the championship round this year, but they were up against a team that not only brings their offense, which we know all about, they bring their defense, which was part of the story on this day. But what about the change of the Rams' philosophy on offense a little bit in the beginning of the third quarter? You know what? We're behind. Let's do something else here.
Airing it out throughout the first half of the football game, but when push came to shove, Mike Martz knew where to take the football, and that was to Marshall Faulk. 31 carries, 159 yards. And I thought if they were going to be successful defensively, they had to contain Donovan McNabb. So a lot of credit to the defensive ends. Leonard Little, who caused that initial fumble, and Grant Wistrom, who had an outstanding day all day and an outstanding year this year. And when they don't turn the football over, as they did today, they are very, very difficult, if not impossible, to beat.
Well, the Philly is making that move, as we've said all year long, but let's just put it into perspective for a moment. I know we're a week away here, but if St. Louis is able to come and beat New England in the Super Bowl, that would be 2 Super Bowl championships in 3 years.
Yes.
Now, on the old standards, that doesn't mean that much, but in the modern day, and I mean the last half dozen years,
yes,
that starts to be
dynasty.
Rather impressive. So the Rams and the Patriots here in New Orleans. When we come back, a little more chatter.
Boom, my game ball goes to the 2 defensive ends, Grant Wistrom, Leonard Little, 6 tackles, 3 sacks, 1 forced fumble. They contained Donovan McNabb.
Troy Brown had a game of a lifetime, and total props to him. But when Drew Bledsoe came in, and how about this touch pass late in the game that kept the drive going? Emotional Drew, good job. 4 months not playing, but
All right, Ferguson, we will take a preview look at Super Bowl 36. It'll be the Rams and the Patriots. But first, let's go back to Week 10 when those two teams met, and it was a Rams victory in New England.
Yeah, and I couldn't believe Ty Law had on Howie's hat. That was unbelievable. You looked good in that thing,
Ty, I liked your hat. You know.
Tell what you were really saying.
Not quite what I'd go with.
You said, what was that?
But don't underestimate this Patriots football team. This is a team that's won 10 of their last 11 games. They only lost being to the Rams. But in that game, they had a real chance to go up 10 points right before the half. Antoine Smith fumbled the football on the 1-yard line going in, and then the game just completely turned around. But they really played them pretty even.
And Mike Martz got to look at a very complicated defensive scheme today in Jim Johnson, and next week he gets, obviously, Bill Belichick, someone who he feels is the ultimate challenge. Gave Mike Martz and Kurt Warner some problems up there, 2 interceptions, threw for over close to 400 yards, 485 yards. Yeah, pretty darn good total offense, but did cause them problems.
Yeah, but I tell you, you know, that New England, I know the people probably sitting there, they all wanted the Steelers. I know I wanted the Steelers to be there, but let's face it, New England earned that right, and they will be a formidable opponent for the Rams. Belichick gets it done defensively for New England.
The legend of Terry Bradshaw grows in Pittsburgh.
I wish it was not this way.
I understand, partner. All right.
It does not grow.
We're going to take you back to St. Louis and rejoin Pat Summerall.
All right, JB, thank you very much. And John, I wonder how many times we're going to hear the phrase, who would have thought that New England was going to be there and Philadelphia played them tough? Who would have thought when we did the Eagles and the Rams of opening Sunday of the season that today's game would be the classic that it was, I think.
Well, you know, you had respect for the Rams all the way. I mean, I think, you know, all year you can kind of see them coming, and, you know, they looked like the team that was going to be the Super Bowl team, the best team in the NFC.
NFL Primetime is presented by Miller Lite.
If they could do it once, they could do it again, and I think they did today.
Well, as you look ahead now, that's New England. We got a lot to learn about them because we haven't seen them in a long time. The Rams, we've done, what, 6 of their games, I think, something like that. So we know pretty much what they can do, how explosive they can be. What are your thoughts about next week's game?
Well, you know, that's what it's all about. I mean, you know, people can say that they wanted this team to be in there or that team to be in there, and it's not a vote. It's not an election. It's not something that someone...
To move the ball methodically down the field today.
Well, so look at that. There's one of the big things, Tommy, Marshall Faulk. Obviously, as big a thing as you can have in football. How about the other things that the Rams did today?
Well, I think certainly we thought that the Rams were at a disadvantage in terms of special teams and the turnovers. They didn't turn the ball over at all. And then you had special teams. They controlled Brian Mitchell. They had the better return game.
Yeah, they did. And Philly thought they would have an advantage in there. Now, it's interesting to note that the last game New England lost was to the St. Louis Rams on ESPN on Sunday night. It was in November before Thanksgiving, 24-17. They've won 8 in a row since then. Tom Brady has a high ankle sprain. I think the way you're going to see this play out is high ankle sprain could be 3 weeks, could be 3 days. Yeah. He is 24 years old.
That's correct.
It is the Super Bowl. So if you clamor for Bledsoe or whatever, it's going to be a straight. Can Brady practice? And I think if he practices well at the end of the week, I think he will start. But isn't it nice to know you got insurance like Bledsoe?
And a lot of the intrigue is going to be Mike Martz versus Bill Belichick. Mike Martz, the great offensive mind, Bill Belichick, and his great defensive mind.
Rook 6 to pawn 5.
That's correct.
Hey, come on down, New Orleans. For Tom Jackson, I'm Chris Berman. It's the Super Bowl.
This has been a presentation of
Going to come out
A&E.
Kurt, what's the difference between Super Bowl 2 years ago and this year's Super Bowl?
I think the team's a little more relaxed this week. You know, I just think that it was so new and everything was just a whirlwind in '99. Nobody knew what to expect. This time, it's more about football. It's more about what we've accomplished, and guys can just relax. I think that year, everything was a surprise. Every game we won was a surprise, and it was a great time. This year, we were expected to get to this point. And so now guys can relax a little bit and just enjoy it, because we know it's one and done. We don't have to worry about going home. It's all about this one game.
How much fun is it to play with this group of offensive weapons?
I mean, you can't explain it. I mean, it's a once-in-a-lifetime thing that you have the guys surrounding you like I have. I mean, you got weapons all over the place. I have an advantage everywhere I want. You know, whoever's in the one-on-one situation, I know I can go there and be successful. I know I've got the weapons that can win in a one-on-one situation. And for a quarterback, that's great. You don't have to worry about anything except what the defense does, and you count on your guy to win, and 90% of the time, they always do.
You know, the critics would say, oh, with all those offensive weapons, anybody could play quarterback for the Rams. Obviously, they can't. But what makes your performance so special playing within this system? Why is it so easy for you to flourish?
Well, I think a couple things that I guess are my strengths within this system. First and foremost, I think my accuracy adds a lot to what we do, is that, you know, maybe a lot of guys could run it and get the ball to the right guy, but being able to get it to the right guy in the right position allows these skill guys to really do what they do best. It allows them to make the plays that they make. And the second thing is just decision making. That in this offense, we do so much and so many different things that you have to be able to recognize and make adjustments and make throws quickly. Get it to the right guy and get it to him in a position to make plays. And those are probably my two strengths that really are accentuated in this offense and with the skill guys I have around me.
If you're able to win the Super Bowl, that'll be 2 Super Bowl championships in 3 years. What will be your place in history?
I've got a lot more to accomplish, and if we win, that'll give us 2. But we want more. You know, we want more championships, and I think that's where you really get your place set in history, is by winning championships, winning football games, and that's what we want to continue to do. So when it's all said and done, maybe I'll look back and say, well, you know, how many do I have? You know, I'd love to have 5, because I know there's not any quarterbacks that have had 5.
Thank you, just 8 miles throwing in 3 years.
That's
impressive.
You've heard
of the birds 8 miles high. I mean, that's... And so has the boat, by the way. 8 miles. That deserves a... But I tell you, you got to be impressed with the way Mike Martz at halftime, Philly game down. You know what? We know we got this guy that throws 8 miles. Let's hand it off. It was almost like he grew up a little as coach.
No, Boom, ironically, the Rams are not writing Kurt Warner into the playoffs. Like 2 years ago, it was like the wildest show on earth, even early in the season, the greatest show on turf they keep talking about. Kurt Warner, last couple of weeks, Green Bay 216, Philadelphia 212. Really, in the Super Bowl 2 years ago, 4-14 in just that one game. You think about how what they've written into the playoffs this year. Marshall Faulk-Leg and the stingy Ram defense. Lovie Smith has done a tremendous job of getting these guys playing great football. They've taken on the great Brett Favre. They've taken on the great Donovan McNabb. I have a feeling throughout this game today, you're going to see, and people will start to appreciate the hustle and the effectiveness of this young and aggressive defense, Tommy.
Yeah, and I think when you think about New England, they have to get some pressure on Kurt Warner. And when the playoffs started, they were the only team that had given up more sacks than they got, 46-41. So when you look back even at the championship game, Cordell Stewart threw some bad picks, but those picks weren't caused by pressure. They were just bad throws. Right there, he gets a hand in the face, but most times he was pretty comfortable in the pocket. He made some throws into coverage, and I think that what you have to do today, and I'm sure Coach Bill Belichick will come up with a game plan, is to figure out how to get in the face of Kurt Warner. And Mort, I have to ask the coaching staff, because if the numbers stay the same, if you can't protect your quarterback and you can't get pressure on their quarterback, that would seem like a formula for disaster.
No, but, you know, let's ask our coaching staff here. We got to go over this thing again. You know, Kurt Warner was in the Green Bay Packers camp in 1994, and Coach Mariucci, Coach Gruden were offensive assistants on that staff, and this guy was thrown back out into the streets. What gives with that?
Yeah, I like the guy. Steve and Andy, Mike Holmgren, they didn't like him. I like Kurt Warner.
We knew he was going to be a 2-time MVP,
I knew he was, yeah. I saw greatness.
Mooch. We've been accused of not being able to evaluate the quarterback, but you know what? He wasn't ready at that time. He was fresh out of college, out of Northern Iowa. He played 1 year of college football, and he just wasn't ready. And boy, is he ready now.
And you had Favre, Brunell, and Detmer on the chart there, too. John, what do the Patriots have to be concerned about today from Warner?
Well, they know that in the red zone, they can score touchdowns, and they'll do it every conceivable way. They'll use every formation, every eligible receiver, and they're going to score touchdowns. This is the best finishing football team in the league. They lead the league in red zone touchdowns, and I think that's the key today.
And Boomer, I got a little-known trivia fact for you. Kurt Warner's last game in the Arena Football League, in the championship game, the Iowa Barnstormers were defeated by the Tampa Bay Storm, am I right? Quarterbacked by Jay Gruden, John Gruden's younger brother.
How about that?
See, now, you know, you sit in the stadium that long and you're bound to come up with something. I thought that coaching staff you had in Green Bay were the best and the brightest. How can they let Warner go? What has Favre ever done?
We like doing TV.
I see. Stay with us. We're here until 2 p.m.
Knew that if they didn't change their defensive approach, it didn't really matter how good their offense was.
We love y'all. Straight up.
St. Louis's offense has demolished defenses at a record-setting rate the last 3 seasons. However, the Rams' most impressive defensive demolition may have occurred this season on their own D.
8 new starters, a new coordinator with a new scheme, and a new attitude. The result, the league's 3rd best unit and a return to the Super Bowl.
On the eve of the biggest game, we're here talking to an offensive star about
the defense. We wouldn't be where we are right now if it wasn't for the defense.
This year, we had plenty of games where our defense won the game for us. Not just kept us in it, not just coupled with the offense, but the defense won games for us.
You got to respect the Rams defense. We ain't playing with nobody now.
We expect to come through each and every ball game. I think that's the difference between this year's defense and last year's defense.
Last season, the league motto was, do unto the Rams defense what their offense does unto you. That's all changed. With his quiet, no-nonsense attitude and attention to detail, defensive coordinator Lovie Smith has the St. Louis D swarming back on course.
When Lovie first got here, the first thing we did in the mini camp was a pursuit drill. And I don't think it would have mattered how hard we ran that drill. You know, the first time we did it, it wasn't good enough. We had to line back up and do it again. And I think that set the tone for the entire year.
what in the world did you see in this guy, the name like Lovie? I'm hearing all your defensive players say, oh, he doesn't yell and scream,
no, he doesn't.
But he gets the job done. What's the deal?
He has a way about him that just reeks of leadership, I guess, and character. When you meet him, he's one of those rare people in life that you meet and you say, this person will have an impact on me in life, not just in football terms. He's one guy that could spank a grown man just by getting up in a meeting and saying a couple of words. He can make you feel like your dad just spanked you. It's amazing. Without yelling, without doing any of those things, you can leave the meeting knowing, I think I just got spanked. He didn't have to say very much, and the players understand.
An overhaul is nothing new for Coach Martz. In 1999, the Rams' offense was revamped. The centerpiece of that remodeling was Marshall Faulk. In 2001, the defensive showpiece is Aeneas Williams.
You can't speak enough about how well Aeneas Williams plays football. I think Aeneas means to the defense what Marshall Faulk meant to the offense a couple years ago.
The Rams have made major strides on defense, but have they met the gold standard set by the offense?
They've accepted the same standard of excellence that we've tried to establish on offense, and we're trying to get that done with defense and special teams, and I think we're at the same level.
For the New England Patriots story, here's Pam Oliver.
Valley. And just like that, the season is over for the home team.
One team that knows all about losing is the Cardinals. In their 89-year history, the franchise has only 26 winning seasons, 3 in the last 25. Nearly every highlight film has the same theme, hope for the future.
1968 should be a year of fulfillment for the St. Louis Cardinals.
Although 1997 was a work in progress, the season may someday be regarded as a turning point.
The Cardinals are a team filled with promise and filled with the heart to become champions.
I've been in the league 5 years and ain't been to the playoffs yet. Oh, we coming. 20.
For the team whose rallying cry was always wait till next year, that year has finally come.
Jackson in the backfield, he'll get it again, up the middle, fumble the ball, it's picked up by Dockett at the 10, at the 5, touchdown, NFC West champs, here they come!
This is what we came in for. It's been 5 years, but we finally got it done.
I remember with them 105-degree weigh-in days in Tempe. It was crazy. Losing games, 6-11 and all that mess. It was good to win today.
Out of 32 teams, we're the first ones to clinch. Now, our mission is to build off of that. Wow! Do not lose the focus.
After clinching a playoff berth, the league's biggest surprise became the league's biggest pushover. The Cardinals lost 4 of their last 6. It looked like another year of wasted potential. Another highlight based on hope.
Why we make things hard on ourselves? Hang in there, baby. Play the good game.
Let's go out, start it fast. Leave nothing on the field. Come out swinging.
In the postseason, Arizona was the team everyone wanted to play. Be careful what you wish for.
Going for Fitz. He's in double coverage. It doesn't matter. Touchdown Cardinals. You can't stop that guy.
That's what I'm talking about.
And Ryan will run it, and the ball pops out. It's in the hands of Antrell Roll. He's running left to the 20. It's a 10. It's a 5. It's a touchdown for Antrell Roll. Cardinals knock off the Falcons 30-24, winning their first playoff game in a decade.
You got a great job, man.
They didn't give us a chance.
Nope.
And we proved them wrong.
I know. Hey, but be humble. Be humble.
Yeah,
Against Carolina, the Cardinals turned more doubters into believers.
Fitz open, caught at the 5, heading for the pylon. Cardinals! Larry Fitzgerald!
Unbelievable!
5th interception of the day for the Cardinals.
Yes. It's written in the stone. Hey, let's go. We're supposed to be here. This is destiny. Get your hat, your coat, and leave.
Hey, they were 8-0 at home.
I know.
They didn't win when it counted, though. You got to win when it counts, baby.
Let's go. Let's go.
Underdog my ass.
It don't matter. That's why you play, man. I told you that. Hey. And you know what? Ain't nobody gonna give us a shot next week either.
Against the Eagles, Arizona is an underdog again. Coincidentally, the last time they played in a championship game was against Philadelphia in 1948. The Cardinals may have lost that game, but for today's team, losing is ancient history.
You know what? We're on this journey together as a team. Keep believing in each other. Nobody can stop us.
Coming up, fans can get creative with a razor, but when a player gives up shaving, can it save his season?
Sometimes the best way to get closer is to get as far away from it all as possible. Don't let erectile dysfunction get in the way. Viagra, America's most prescribed ED treatment, can help you enjoy a more satisfying sexual experience. Ready to talk to your doctor? Find out how at Viagra.com. Ask your doctor if your heart is healthy enough for sex. Don't take Viagra if you take nitrates for chest pain, as it may cause an unsafe drop in blood pressure. Side effects may include headache, flushing, upset stomach, and abnormal vision. To avoid long-term injury, seek immediate medical help for an erection lasting more than 4 hours. Stop taking Viagra and call your doctor right away if you experience a sudden decrease in vision or hearing. 20 million men have had the Viagra conversation. Ask your doctor if Viagra is right for you.
Well, I married my dream girl, but she didn't tell me her credit was bad. So now instead of living in a pleasant suburb, we're living in the basement at her mom and dad's. No, we can't get a loan for a respectable home just because my girl defaulted on some old credit card. If we'd gone to freecreditreport.com, I'd be a happy bachelor with a dog and a yard.
Offer applies with enrollment and Triple Advantage.
With the first pick in the NFL draft.
My journey started when I declared to the NFL draft about 2 weeks ago.
What do you have to offer the NFL, Mr. Crabtree?
I really didn't understand what I was doing until I got on the podium, and it kind of hit me. I was like, man, I'm really about to